So we've done kind of a check-in, and let's go through this agenda. Daryl, Teresa, did you share this agenda with Lucy?
No, I did not.
Okay. The DC branch is facilitating our meeting, which will be a week from Sunday, Daryl. I will send out the reminder later today and the Zoom information for people to register. But these items listed here are items, some of which are always on the agenda. And Teresa, do you want to talk about the Lebanon speaker?
Well, George, why don't you review the whole agenda and make sure there are no changes before we get started with it?
Okay, so getting clear about the agenda for our BLC meeting a week from Sunday. And then we want to talk about the anti-racist transformation work. Daryl's leading that, and where are we? What do we need to do? Scheduling the BLC team and the European Descent Allies Caucus team meeting. We need to meet before the 31st. So here are some times. We'll look at some times and pick a couple to offer to the EDAC folks, and then set our next BLC meeting. And we will be done by noon.
Well, let's hope so. But George, what do you mean Daryl is leading the anti-racism transformation work?
Yes.
That is work that you have been assigned to lead.
Oh, okay. I thought that you made a decision that Daryl should take that on because I wasn't able to get it together in time, but that's fine.
George, you and Daryl are working together, but you are the person who is leading that work, and you have been for over a year. You just haven't done it. And you have to be accountable, George, and you have to live up to what we agreed to over a year ago. And now you have support from Daryl, but don't think that you're just turning it over to Daryl. He is the newest member of WILF. He just joined WILF. He has no idea who these characters are that you've been getting to know for a solid year or more. Daryl will have to build his own relationships with some of the allies in EDAC. He doesn't know them. The EDAC is going to get bigger and bigger because people who are not in the core group of 9, because we have a core group of just 9, but we have a very long list of allies of European descent. It's my expectation that they will all be in the EDAC. So I will take responsibility for leading the EDAC work because I created that as a strategy to deal with the refusal to recognize the Black Liberation Caucus. So I set up an all European descent caucus just to mess with Darian. So that's part of the strategy of messing with them white supremacists on the national board. So I just wanted to put that out there so that we're real clear. The anti-racism transformation work is a really important component. We have 2 components of the 3-year strategy: recruit members, and anti-racism transformation training. Shante and I are on the recruit members component. You and Daryl are on the anti-racism transformation. And I can guarantee you, me and Shante, along with quite a few other people, are going to make sure that we have 300 members at the end of the day. We already have 82 so far this year. So let us begin.
Are there any other items to add to the agenda?
Hopefully not.
All righty then. So the things that are off on, usually on every BLC meeting agenda, Daryl, are the BOPA, the Basis of Political Agreement. We review that. We review and update the strategy chart if any updates are needed. And this time around, we need to do an evaluation of the Congress, including the E&I workshop that Teresa and I did Wednesday, and an update on the reparations UN decade, including the resolution. We should add that. And then any other items that need to be added. Do we know now of any other items for the 7/31 BLC meeting agenda?
Well, George, this recording has to be shared with Lucy Murphy because Lucy Murphy is the main organizer of the DC branch. And so she and Daryl and probably Dr. J, because Lucy keeps connecting me with Dr. J. So I think she's going to be getting quite a bit of support from Dr. J. And so putting together a steering committee of the DC branch seems important to do. So I'm hoping that Daryl, Vicki Elson, as well as Dr. J and Lucy will come together and form the nucleus of the steering committee for the DC DMV branch. I'm putting this all in the recording so that when Lucy listens to it, she can understand kind of my outside vision of what's needed for the DC DMV branch at this point, because it's been over a month since the founding meeting. And so putting together a steering committee is the first step. In the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, we have a steering committee of 5. Danita Gibson Lloyd, Deidre Whittlesey, Destiny Wallace, who's 28 years old, and Jasmine Outlaw, who is 30 years old. So we've made sure that we have younger women, as well as me, the Mama Teresa, in our branch leadership. Shante still has to work on pulling together a solid steering committee in Metro Atlanta. And George, as you know, there is no steering committee in the Triad, and there is no steering committee in Southern Piedmont. So we all have to do our work because these are the branches that make up the core of the Black Liberation Caucus. Because the other people who are spread out over a wide geographic area, some of them are not even in branches. But we have like one person who is shaky in Boston. We have the person from Cape Cod who just discovered she is a person of color and is so cute, but she's been so assimilated into the Cape Cod white culture that she was not identifying herself appropriately. But hopefully we have gotten past that point. And you know what's happening around the country in the other branches. Most of them are all white. Mm-hmm. So we have a few branches that may have a chocolate chip or two, like Fresno, like Pittsburgh, like Milwaukee, and none of them are active in the BLC at this point. So we have a lot of building to do for the Black Liberation Caucus itself. And that's a discussion that I think should happen on July 31st. But that's entirely up to Daryl and Lucy.
All righty. Any suggestions and questions on the meeting for the 31st?
None.
All right then.
Um,
Go ahead, Daryl.
well, I probably have some, but I think once you guys have a conversation, once you all have a conversation with Lucy as the leader of that, organizer of that branch, then we'll see what questions there are.
Don't get it twisted, Daryl. You are gonna have a conversation with Lucy. We're simply gonna share this recording with Lucy. That's all we're doing. Because the DC and DMV branch has to get its own thing together. So you have
Well, I
to
think she
work.
may have some questions for you all that I can't answer because I'm too new. So she may have questions, which is why I said that. Once, if she doesn't, then we're fine. But if she does, then we'll have to regroup after she gets any answers, if she has any.
Well, once Lucy listens to the recording, it will be clear what the expectations are for the DC DMV branch to facilitate the meeting. And so I trust Lucy and all of her organizing experience to be able to take the lead on facilitating the meeting on July 31st. The one thing that we do need to say about the meeting, and thank you, George, for prompting it, but we've invited a woman from Lebanon to the meeting. So I'm hopefully will be forgiven for hijacking the first 30 minutes of the meeting. What we have in the situation in Lebanon, Palestine, is that there are a huge number of refugees coming into Lebanon from Syria and from the Palestinian territories, because there is no Palestine yet. There are territories that should be part of the Palestine when it's shaped and agreed to. But right now, there's chaos. And so the person who is, her name is Hala, and she's in Lebanon. And Lebanon is a failed state, but she's gonna come to us and talk to us because the BLC has proposed to do an international webinar in late August or early September on the situation in Palestine and Lebanon. And so it's Lucy is being asked to do a report back on her eyewitness trip to Palestine. And the Lebanon folks will be talking about how horrible everything is. And it's really quite sad because they can only talk about how horrible it is, but they can't formulate a solidarity request. But they have a resolution that they're trying to get forward at the Congress this weekend to be voted on. But it was living chaos in their side meeting on yesterday, where they were trying to explain what they were asking for. And everybody from all the sections, including me, telling them we can't do for them what they can do for what they must do for themselves. And Hala picked up on me saying that, and she's the only one that I think really understands the self-determination that's required at this point for the people of Lebanon, because everybody else is just help us, help us, help us, help us. We need to have 40% of the parliament to be women. But we can't do that for them from outside Lebanon. So that is a conversation that we're going to be having with them in a webinar, if it's agreed to at the meeting on July 31st. But what I wanted to ask of you, Daryl, and of Lucy, who will listen to this, is that the first 30 minutes of the meeting will be for the discussion on Lebanon and us agreeing to doing a webinar on Lebanon, Palestine. Now, it will be 11 p.m. in Lebanon when we meet at 4 o'clock. And I asked Hala if that was okay with her. And she said, of course. So if Lucy and you, Daryl, are willing to allow the first 30 minutes of the meeting, so we would suspend the regular agenda until we hear from Hala. So that's what's being proposed, Daryl. How do you feel about that? Can't hear you, Daryl. Daryl, I think you're still muted.
I'm sorry, you couldn't hear me. I'm trying to log in on the computer at the same time, so I had this one on mute. I apologize. So generally, I think it sounds fine. I think that in terms of the agenda, I would the first 5 or so minutes I think should be the gathering and a welcome, and then have them talk. And I think that we should put on the agenda any particular resolution about us adopting, doing the webinar. So like not resolutions, not the word I wanted, but put on the agenda so people are aware that we want to talk about a webinar on Palestine and Lebanon. And so that can be an official action item that we're going to vote to agree to do that. But other than that, it sounds fine. I mean, I think that there is some oppression going on somewhere in the world and in many places in the world, but in this particular one has come to the fore. So I think that it's good to have a conversation so people are aware of what's going on around them.
The Women's International League for Peace and Freedom has a section in Lebanon, and it also has a group in Palestine.
Recording in progress.
George, what's wrong? Are you stopping the recording, George? Please don't stop the recording.
No, Daryl joined. He was notified. The new Daryl was notified that recording is in progress.
Oh, I see. So he got off his phone and got on with his other device.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great, because all of this recording is going to be shared with Lucy, because when it comes down to it, the decision of how the agenda happens on July 31st is entirely up to the DC DMV branch. And Daryl is learning a lot about how WILF is organized. WILF has a Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, Daryl, and we have been very focused on Palestine and Lebanon for years. So this is all something that we've been doing for years around these two areas of the world. And so it's not informing people, because everybody in WILF, all the women, Daryl, are really aware and very committed to Middle East peace and justice. And we have an action committee that does that. So there are very few men in WILF, Daryl. And part of what the organizational culture is that I've observed over the many years I've been in WILF is that men who step out and try to tell women what to do, these white women take a very bad view. And their general approach, Daryl, is to simply ignore you. So I would say spend as much time as possible over this next year or so getting to know people and letting people know who you are, because patriarchy is a real serious objection by these women. And that's why I love being in this organization, because they have their racist view on patriarchy. So we have one Black man on the national board. And he got on there because the organization is so weak. There was nobody to run against him, but they treat him like he is just being tolerated. So we don't want you to be in that position as a member of the strategy team. So I would say, don't start giving advice like on the email thing when you were starting to give advice. And I told you, be careful, because they will begin to identify you as some man who's going to try to insert male domination into this, and they will fight it. I mean, they will really fight it. So, let's just be careful. And Lucy is seen as a primary branch organizer for the DC DMV branch, but she's going to pull together a steering committee with hopefully you, Dr. J, Vicki Elson, because we can't have an all-Black steering committee in DC, not in this organization. And Vicki is a very good ally, Vicki Elson. She supports the struggle 100%. She donated $100 to SARN at the June 17th event. And then when I talked to her after that, Daryl, she joined the NAACP at my suggestion, right on the phone while we were talking. So she's in the DC branch of the NAACP. So Vicki Elson should be included in any steering committee. Plus, she's doing the nuclear ban treaty work, which is central to the work of Will. I know I'm talking way too long, George, and you need to stop me because we have another agenda, quite a few other items, and you're running the meeting, George. And if you want to end at noon, you need to interrupt me.
Okay, thank you for that chance to jump in. So the next agenda item is our anti-racism transformation work. And there's not an update here except Daryl and I are a team. Daryl, can you and I find time to meet on our own and review where we wanted to be based on our Black Liberation Caucus strategy chart, or we wanted to be at the end of June and figure out how do we get there?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, George, let me just say this one thing. You and I have talked about this process, and if we want to get the branches to agree to let the training come in, we're going to be using these 6 months, or now 5 months, from August to December to get your act together. In other words, you will be identifying branches that might let you in starting next year. So I would say look to the west and to the south for branches in the winter, and then start looking to the northeast and the northwest and the midwest for branches to let you in the spring and summer. So that's the plan. So, and then you connect that with what we already have planned on the strategic chart. Like I will be in the Northeast on a tour in the first 2 weeks of August.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you've got to begin to think strategically about this. And that has been your biggest weakness, George. You haven't been able to think beyond what you just normally do with those white people you work with. But you've got to make the connection between the fact that we have the European Descent Allies Caucus. So those are branches where we could possibly get to go first. So you just got to begin to develop a plan. See, I plan my work and work my plan, which is how we're managing to get all these new members in. So I'm glad to join you and Daryl on that meeting. You don't have to try to figure this out all by yourself, George. And I've been telling you that for over 6 months now. And you just haven't been able to get it going because you're not connecting strategically with the work that's already being done. And I keep working around you. And so I would like to attend the meeting with you and Daryl where you start talking about developing your plan that's going to take you from now until December 2024.
Okay.
And then
Go
I
ahead,
said I
Shante.
didn't. I said I didn't have anything to add, but actually, can we add reproductive justice to the BOPA with everything going on with Roe versus Wade? And in the last 10 to 15 years, women, especially brown and black women's level of mass incarceration has gone up by 700 to 800%. And it's a little separate than the mass incarceration committee because they're with Roe versus Wade, they're also talking, there's talks. It's not as definitive as Roe versus Wade, but there's talks of them overturning Plessy versus Ferguson.
Mhm.
So I think that really has an impact on the Black Liberation Caucus.
We last month we added, and I'm not gonna get the exact right language, so excuse me while I go look at the strategy chart.
No, George, you need to put up the BOPA because you arbitrarily added that to the BOPA. What we said at the last month's meeting in June is that we would, because it was raised at that meeting, and we said that we would consent on it in July, at the July meeting.
Oh,
But you added it already. So put up the
that
BOPA.
was a mistake.
Yes, yes, but that's because you're so used to working alone that you forgot. And I didn't bother to correct you because once you presented it to the whole International Congress of Will, there's no way in hell I was gonna correct it. But when we have the meeting on July 31st, we have to confirm what Shante is asking us to do. You can't take it off, George.
I'm not
because
taking it off, child. I'm highlighting it.
And
So-
I'm not your fucking child, George.
No, you're
You
not.
may talk to them white people like that, but I'm not your goddamn child, excuse me.
All right. So that's all I wanted to point out, Shante. And as Teresa said, we have to consent on that at our upcoming meeting on the 31st.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so Teresa's gonna join us for our art meeting.
I'm sorry,
And
George.
Yes,
George, the piece that Shante just mentioned, I know that Lucy is supposed to listen to this recording, but can we just add that in on this as a asterisk, just say that that's a piece that needs to be consensus on so that we don't lose that?
well, the BOPA is here and it is reviewed every month. Is there something else I need to, y'all
Well,
wanna add?
No, George, Daryl doesn't understand that the BOPA comes up as a standing item at every meeting. So Daryl, when the BOPA is presented, George and you can make the point that George has already added it to the BOPA, but we need to reach consensus on it being added.
But
I
that's
don't
what
think
I'm asking for.
there'll be a problem, but that is how the order of the agenda goes. We will hear, if y'all agree, we will hear from the Lebanon speaker, and then the first item on the 1 hour agenda that you all have to be able to move, because we do ask for a hard stop by 5:30. So if the first half hour is used for Lebanon and the opening, then the final hour will be the BOPA reviewing the chart and whatever other items that the DC branch decides needs to be discussed. But it doesn't have to be a long meeting since the DC branch is new and there may not be a lot of items to be discussed. The DC branch may use the meeting to ask questions since it's a new branch. So it's a chance for the DC branch to say, well, we're trying to pull together our steering committee and we could possibly use some assistance. Or we'd like to know what is being planned for September when the Congressional Black Caucus meets, because we're coming in for the Congressional Black Caucus. At least I for sure am coming in, and I'm going to try to see who else SARN can afford to pay for from the South to be at the Congressional Black Caucus meetings, because I'll pay my $75 registration fee in a week or so. And then I'll try to get other people. If George can come, that would be great, because we're going to be working on the reparations, HR 40, so that those CBC folks can get that on the floor to be voted. And that's what we're going to be pushing for. We're going to use our BOPA agenda to push the Congressional Black Caucus in September. And that meeting is September 28th to October 2nd. So we're expecting the DC branch to host those of us coming in for that struggle, Daryl. So I'm putting this all in the recording so that Lucy can hear it, because she's the one who prompted me to remember that the Congressional Black Caucus meeting was coming up. And when I went on their site and started to register, I've been getting all kinds of emails from them reminding me to do the early registration where you get the big discount.
We can add that on the agenda under announcements too, for other people to know that it's happening in September. So
well, it's a lot more than an announcement, because we're asking the DC DMV branch to support representatives from the BLC coming into DC. And the Southern Anti-Racism Network will try to raise the money to sponsor. I know SARN will pay for my trip to DC, but we might be able to pay for Shantae or some of the branches in the South with Black leadership. So I'm thinking Shantae, George, and I could come up to the Congressional Black Caucus. It's from September 28th, Shantae, until October 2nd. So
Okay. I'll block it off.
Yeah, you can figure out how many days you can do it. But it means hotel stays, it means a train ride or an airplane ride. I'm just not ready to get on planes, so I will drive to Durham and take the train to DC.
All right, we need to move the agenda, y'all.
George, maybe on this agenda, that what I'm hearing, and what, well, I'm gonna go back for a second to what I was trying to suggest, and under the BOPA, that on the agenda itself, there be a, if you go down a line and indent over, just asterisk that says approve the new, or consents on whatever the new piece in the BOPA is, so we can make sure that we don't lose the time, because so many people will be new, the BOPA will be new to them completely, and in trying to explain it, understand it, et cetera, we don't want to also lose the time on the piece that needs to be consented on that's new. So,
well, Daryl,
Daryl,
you're gonna be the really only new person, because all of us have been meeting for over a year, and we've been looking at the BOPA every month.
Aren't there new DC people besides me that are going to be coming to this meeting?
I have no idea.
So if there are, then I'm not the only new one, and having it written on the agenda just helps everybody know what we're doing. But you don't have to put it on there. Let's move on, because
this is not the agenda that will go out. You and Lucy we'll create the agenda that's gonna go out. This is just
Exactly,
for us to discuss today.
exactly.
So now
Okay.
we've got good ideas and y'all can put together the agenda that you want us to use on the 31st.
And Daryl, you have to work with Lucy on that. So we don't need to be talking about what's going on the 31st agenda, except for the items that I've already jumped out there with, like the Lebanon thing. But everything else on the agenda is going to be up to Lucy, you, and whoever else is working on it. And if you can get some other DC members to come to the meeting on Sunday afternoon on July 31st, that would be great. I find it's rather hard, but usually the Fannie Lou Hamer branch has 2 or 3 members, but the Southern Piedmont only has 1 member. And on occasion, Metro Atlanta has more than Shantae. And so it's not like it's a big meeting. So George, move your agenda.
Thank you. Next, we want to pick some dates. Time to look at your calendars, people. Pick some dates for a joint meeting with us, the Black Liberation Team, and the EDAC team, the European Descent Allies Caucus team, those 9 people Teresa mentioned earlier. The dates that we know will work for at least Teresa and I would be Monday at 4, Tuesday at 6:30, Wednesday at either noon or 4:30, and Friday after 2:30. We
And
want to give,
just to be clear, we're talking Monday, July 25th.
yes,
We're talking Tuesday, July 26th. We're talking Wednesday, July 27th, and we're talking Friday, July 29th.
and it would
Thursday,
be good to give,
the 28th is unavailable.
it would be good to give the EDAC at least 2 options. So let's find some dates that work for Shantae and you, Daryl.
I can only do, at the times that you guys have given on the dates you've given, I can only potentially do the 6:30 on the 26th.
Okay. That's the only one for you. How about you, Shantae?
I can do 6:30 on the 26th. I can do the 25th or the 26th.
You can do
Well,
the 25th or the 26th.
we have to go with Daryl's only date, because the only people who will be meeting with those 9 white women, possibly 10, if Joan Goddard says yes today. But the 9 white women and the 4 of us is what the meeting is. So we will let them know that the preferred date is Tuesday, the 26th at 6:30. If they can't do that date, then Daryl, you may be out of this first meeting, because we have to go with the date that the most people can do. But we will let them know that all of these dates are available, but our preferred date is the Tuesday at 6:30. And second preferred date, Shantae, you said you could also do the Monday date, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll let them know that those are the 2 dates that we have available. So we still get to offer them 2 dates, George, with the preference being the Tuesday at 6:30 date,
Right.
because that's when Daryl is available. But if they can't do that date and they want to do the Monday date or some other dates, we know that you and I are available, George, for all of the dates that we have there, because I tried to come up with the most dates that we could offer them, but we will negotiate with them over email. And so, George, you have all of the email addresses, so you will send out this decision, right?
Yes. Okay. So we're gonna offer them preferred date is Tuesday at 6:30. And if that doesn't work, the backup is Monday at 4. We're all agreed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So when do we want to meet again? Sometime after the 31st? So
Well,
sometime in August?
George, we have about 20 minutes left in this meeting, and I know it's been a kind of rough ride. And so I think rather than jumping to the last item on the agenda about when we're gonna meet next, strategically, what's gonna be happening during the month of August is that on August 15th, the No to NATO subcommittee of the Disarm in Wars Committee is meeting. And one of our allies is facilitating that meeting. Darrell is asking, what is ART again? It stands for Anti-Racism Transformation.
Oh, okay.
So, George, I think you should spell it out on the agenda now so that we have that visual, so that Darrell remembers. Put ART in parentheses and spell out Anti-Racism Transformation. ANTI-racism, then the word transformation. And that's what we refer to as ART. So it's kind of a way of identifying our Black liberation training, because there have been many of these trainings thrown at these women over the at least past 50 years, and nothing has stuck with them, nothing. There's a woman in Vermont who says the only way she'll work with them is that they pay her. We're trying to get them to fund the work that we're doing, not to pay us per se, but to fund our trips to all these branches, to fund the materials being printed, etc. That's going to be a struggle that we will begin on July 26th. Now, on July 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the National Board will meet. We really need to all try to be in that meeting. You have to send an email to secretary@wilfus.org. You don't want to miss that meeting, being on the strategy team, because that's the meeting where all of the white folks decide what's gonna get done. There are only 2 people of color on that national body. One is a woman from India who was in a caste in India, which she says if she was in India, she would be considered white. She's on the national board. I'm going to be taking her job as Membership Development Committee Chair when her term ends this year. She supports it. And the Black guy, Philip Cole, who is a conservative Republican based in San Francisco, who's married to a Filipino woman. He's really anti-Black women, is my feeling that I get from him. So that's who's on the national board, along with a whole bunch of white liberal racists, to be frank. So
What's the date on that?
Tuesday, July 26th. And the board meeting starts at 8 p.m. And it usually goes at least 2 hours. And it's going to be a really big meeting because they'll be talking about what we did at the Congress. So these are the important dates coming up.
And the Southern Anti-Racism Network. Please leave a message.
Thank you.
So, so George, before we jump to when we meet again.
Message from Hunter Warfield. This is a call from a debt collector. Please give us a call at
Sorry about my annoying little call from people who are not gonna get a dime from me. Why are you messing with the page, George?
I unmuted myself.
No, I'm talking about with the anti-racism transformation art item on the agenda. You somehow managed to put a long space there.
When I reached to put the mute unmute, it hit the space bar as well.
Oh,
We have 10 minutes left.
well, the whole point, Miss Technocrat,
Mhm.
is that what we're trying to do, George, is think about why we should meet again and when that should be. So based on what I know that's on the chart, the next meeting, if we do it, has to be after August 15th. That's the point I was making, but I wanted to make the real point about the important upcoming dates, George, and the national board meeting, which happens on the last Tuesday of every other month.
Can I suggest that, given that there may be some, I mean, I've got to get some time with you and George to go over things that you all have already worked on or the plan and all that. And if you all are coming here in September, can we make our next meeting when we're all here together, if you all are actually coming? And that way it gives us a little bit of time. We're at the end of July now almost, gives us a few weeks to work on some of these pieces, to have something to talk about. I'm not.
No, Darryl, no, it can't wait till then. Because what we'll be doing in September will be highly concentrated on the CBC's thing. So we really need to meet in August or early September. So no, Darryl, your suggestion is not strategically appropriate.
In August, I'm good for the most part, Mondays and Tuesdays. I'll actually be in DC the 18th through the 20th. And then I'll be in Savannah the 26th, 27th, and 28th. So any other time is, and my birthday is the 25th. So for the most part, any other time is pretty good.
Well, if we're looking at after the 15th of August, when the No to NATO committee meets, I am very open on the 17th and the 18th of August. And I would suggest, Darryl, that the three of us meet about the art on one of those days. And then we set the full strategy team meeting for early September.
Okay.
So Darryl and George, what times are you available on August 17th and 18th?
Pretty much anytime on the 18th for me and the 17th in the morning.
What about you, Darryl? This is to discuss the art.
I'm looking, sorry, hold on.
Because yes, you do have your standing meeting from 2 until 4 on Wednesdays, right, George?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Neither of those days are good for me.
Wow.
What about the 19th, Friday?
That week is not good for me.
Well, can you offer some other date in August after the 15th that's good for the three of us to meet?
Hold on. All right. Tuesday and Wednesdays. Monday. Weekend. So sometime on the 25th is before 5 is good.
So you don't have any availability on the 22nd or the 23rd?
The 22nd, no, I'm traveling. On the 23rd, I work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the contract job, and the same thing on Wednesday. I work from 9:30 to 4:30 on that day, and then I have meetings in the afternoon on the 24th after that.
So what about an evening meeting on the 23rd?
No, because I'll have been traveling, and I still have a family to come home and take care of too. So it would be very late, and that's a very, very long day for me on Tuesdays.
So what are you proposing for the 25th?
Anytime before 5.
Well, that's great because that's also the date, George, for the SARN admin committee meeting, but that doesn't start until 7:30. So George, what time are you available on Thursday, the 25th, to meet with Dow? Because I'm open all day that day.
I'm open too, anytime after 11.
So Daryl, you pick the time.
11:30.
Okay, 11:30 on the 25th. And now for an early September meeting for all of us.
Well, Shantae, what's your availability in early September?
Early meaning the first week or the second week?
That's right.
No, I said early meeting the first week or second week. You know, it's also well, I'm
Yes.
fine on the
First
holiday.
or second week.
Tuesday the 6th would be good. Or even that Friday, the 2nd is good for me.
Well, let's check with Daryl. You heard that, Daryl. So what about you?
Say the second one again, Shantae.
Friday, the 2nd. Or how's your Tuesday, the 6th? That's right after Labor Day weekend.
Tuesdays are still that crazy Tuesday thing. So it would need to be that later that of the 5th in the second week.
Oh, you can do the 5th? The 5th works for
No,
me.
I can't do- No, not the 5th. I was later in that week. So the 2nd is not good. And
Got
the
it.
not good. Do you have any days in the 8th or the 9th?
Yeah, the 9th works well for me. The
How about
8th,
the 9th?
the 8th is that one Wilf call. So the 9th might be great because we can all hear what's going on with one Wilf.
9th is open for me. How about you, Teresa?
Totally open. So what time, Daryl, works best for you?
2:30.
What?
2:30.
2:30 on the
2:30.
9th.
2:30 on the 9th.
Oh, can we do 3 o'clock? Gregory's gonna be in school and I pick him up at 2:15, so I don't want to be.
3 o'clock.
We can. I think Princess will be back in school, and I may be at that time, depending on where I'm located, I may be on the road to go back to get her because of traffic. But that's fine.
Well,
Okay.
choose a later time because I'm open all day. So let's make sure that all the school children are safe
No,
by the time we start.
that time is fine because she doesn't get out of school until 4:30. I just may have to be on the road to go get her, depending on if I'm in Arlington at the church. If I'm at home, then I can leave later. So it just depends on where I'm at. So that time is fine.
So we do 1-hour meetings. So if we start at 3, that should be able to allow you to be there for the whole meeting, Daryl.
Should.
Okay, so
Alright.
let's plan on 3 p.m. on Friday,
The 9th.
September 9th.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks,
Well,
everybody.
Well,
Now,
that worked out perfectly.
How often will we need to meet in general, in your opinion? What are you thinking in terms of how often this group to meet?
Daryl, it's all based on strategy. And I am the strategy team leader. And I can tell you, based on my strategic experience, is that we can't plan when we're gonna meet again on a regular basis because stuff happens. And Daryl, we hope that you can participate, but it sounds like you're very busy. Thank you, George, for allowing this to be a 1-hour meeting, even with all of my Mama Teresa stuff. So I think it's right at noon.
Mhm.
So George, are you ready to close the meeting? We don't have any chat, but we do have the recording, which I'm sure Lucy is gonna get a big kick out of it.
Okay,
So as soon as you have the recording ready, please share it with Lucy. What's in the chat before we close? I haven't put anything in the chat, but somebody
both from
did.
Daryl, one about referring to new people in the DC area, about clarification earlier, and asking about the anti-racism transformation. And that's all. All
Oh,
right, then.
okay.
Have a happy
Oh.
weekend, everybody.
George, don't forget 1:30.
Oh, no, I won't forget. I'm about to go to Nancy's Sing now, after I go to the bathroom. Bye.
Oh, yeah, because it's coming on now. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.